Yeah, my name's Kylie Fisher. I live on a remote cattle station a couple of hours west of Bourke with my husband David, and we have 3 teenage children who are sadly away at boarding school at the moment. They're 9 hours away from where we are. I was actually in the police force and I came to Bourke as a detective, and my plan was to do 3 years and go to the coast, but I went to the Ingonia races and fell in love, yeah. So I stayed working until our first child was born, and Dave frantically was building a house for us to live in. So I came out here with this little tiny baby and no phone, no TV, and it was a big shock. And we only had VHS player and one VHS movie, which was Titanic. So we watched Titanic every night for about 3 months, I think, yeah. And I remember when I first moved out here, the silence, so just absolute silence. I mean, we'd be quiet right now, you can't hear a thing. And I found that hard to adjust to, but the funny thing is now, I'm so used to the silence that I find living in town hard. So you can adjust to your environment quite well if you give it a go, yeah. So I think that was probably the hardest thing. And yeah, just no support close by. I had no family support, obviously nearby with young children and school of the area, this is easy, I used to be a policewoman, I can handle this. It was really hard. It's a full-time, hard commitment. You're not trained teachers. Well, 99.9% of women on the land have never been a teacher, and that was very hard. And I think you feel the pressure that if your children aren't doing well at school, it's your responsibility because you're the supervisor. So I found that extremely difficult. Trying to juggle with that. One of my son was diagnosed with on the autism spectrum and a few other things. I found that very challenging, trying to deal with a child with special needs with no support around. And there were times when you just wished you had some help or just someone to talk to. And that was very, very challenging as well. And just the droughts, like everyone else on the land. No money. I've got family. I mentioned earlier I've got a twin sister, and, I compare our lives where she's married to a solicitor and their life's quite comfortable financially, where we were struggling just to put food on the table. When I came to Bourke, it was a really bad time in Bourke at that time. The police and community relations weren't very good, and, things were quite violent at times and whatever. And as a detective, you go to a lot of really bad sort of jobs, and I think I started to go to church just because I wanted an hour of being with no crime, and you sit in church and you're with nice people, and I felt more connected. And then I started to think, oh, I'm really liking this, I might become a Catholic, which is what I did. And so I started to go to my church group every Sunday night. We went to church. Sister Marietta Green was my teacher and loved it. And so I did the course and became a Catholic. And it was interesting because just near the end of becoming a Catholic is when I met David, and I needed a sponsor. So Dave got to be my sponsor, which was lovely. Do you know what? Before I came here, I suppose, like everyone else, wanted the nice clothes and stuff. I think now I don't really care. So, I look after myself and whatever. But I was probably a bit OCD and used to clean 24/7, and all my CDs were in alphabetical order. I've relaxed a lot now out here. I don't feel that pressure. And I remember one day, family friends of ours just asked could they pop in for a visit, and they had a couple of other families, and it was short notice. I thought, what am I going to feed these people? Because there were so many, it was a big group. So I just grabbed a heap of sausages out and we gave them sausage sandwiches. And it really made me very early on realise it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this flash meal set up. They were very grateful just for their sausage sandwich. That has changed me. If I lived in town, I would have ducked down to the supermarket and made this little flash meal, You don't have to do that, and people don't expect that from you. And out here too, believe it or not, people just pop in. And you could be in your pyjamas, or whatever, and you just learn to be you and to accept who you are. you know, I enjoy church, but obviously we don't get to go to church very often. And but I sometimes find when I'm in church I get a bit too distracted. Do you know what I mean? I look around, look at the little kids, how cute are they? You know, whereas out here I think I can get deep in prayer without those distractions around. I have my own retreat 24/7. I don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. Because I don't have those distractions and I can get deep. But even when you're angry, you know, I can yell out and I yell at God and say, why, you know, why is this going on? So if I did that in town, I would think I was mad, you know, but you can do that out here. Have a bit of a cry, yell, whatever, laugh, yeah. When one of our beloved pets, because we are animal people, we often hold a service with when they die, and my son is old enough now that he actually welds the crosses together for us, and just to teach the children about death, and you know, we all have a chance to say a little prayer and say something, and we've got them close because they were close to us, so they can still see the house and feel like they're still with us a bit, yeah. My son actually commends their spirit back to the earth and does his own little ritual. Yeah, it was cute, yeah. Mind you, my husband hates the spot I picked because he needs a jackhammer to dig a hole there because it's hard as a rock, but anyway. I've always loved photography, always have, but obviously I had a camera years ago and it's going to show my age, but it was a film one. And then I wanted to get back into it, but we couldn't afford a camera, and so I just couldn't afford to do it. And my husband this year surprised me after all the years of shovels and wheelbarrows and those exciting sort of Christmas and birthday gifts that I got. He bought me a really nice camera, and I was so grateful for it. Anyway, so I think now I got involved because the kids were old enough that I could start to have a bit of my own time again. And now that I've got into it, I'm just loving it, absolutely love it. I love the challenge of trying to get the shot like everyone else does. I'm learning. I feel like it's got my brain going again, and now I've also created a little business on the side to try and bring in a little bit of extra income to help pay for the 3 kids' boarding school fees. Oh, look, I think God's all around us, I really do. And sometimes when I go out to take photographs and you just sit there and you'll see something amazing or whatever, and I feel connected that way with the land, you know what I mean? In that sort of... I remember I did a writing and photography workshop and we had to write a story, and it was called... We got given a title, what was it? My Land, I think. My Land, My Home. So I actually wrote my little short story on here, and I said that I don't think the land belongs to anybody. I think it's passed on from generation to generation. We're just caregivers at the time, you know? And I think you sit out there and you feel that when you're sitting out in the... It's not mine, it's not anybody's. No one owns this land. God created it, and just got to look after my area where I can and then pass it on to somebody else and hope they do the same.